Hello, friends, and welcome to your Daily Detroit. It is Thursday, October 9th, 2025. I am Jer Stays, coming to you from our studio at Techtown in the Paris of the Midwest, Detroit, Michigan. Joining me at the table to work through the news and talk about some spooky things is friend of the show, returning guest, Annalise Frank of Axios. So good to see you.
It is great to be here.
Absolutely. So I've got some questions on the news for you. You've been covering a lot of stuff over at Axios. I think the first one I want to get into, because I know that there are a lot of listeners who are going to want to know about this. There's been a lot of stuff with the state budget lately, and I frankly haven't been able to make heads or tails of all of it. But one part that I saw that you have kind of focused on a little bit is what's happening with cannabis. And apparently not only might prices increase, there's ties to other things, there's new taxes possibly, there's a lawsuit. So Annalise, what on earth is going on?
Basically, to help fund road work, the bill that Gretchen Whitmer has signed this, a 24% wholesale tax on cannabis. So essentially what that means is just, producers and growers of cannabis, when they sell it to dispensaries, that's where the sales tax comes in. That's all that they mean by wholesale. So basically this, money, this revenue, which they're saying it's going to generate like $420 million in revenue, which is kind of funny.
Seriously?
Yeah, you can look that up.
That's amazing.
This tax, surprise, surprise, businesses are not liking this idea. So the Michigan Cannabis Industry Association, which is, cannabis businesses, they are suing the state over this tax. They are arguing that the legislature would need to amend the law that Michigan passed to institute legal weed, when we legalized it. The people who instituted this tax disagree with that. So there's some back and forth there. So businesses are just mad about this.
One thing I will note is there's been multiple reports that Michigan's weed prices are pretty low and a lot of supply. So how does that play into that? And how might this affect prices if you're actually buying the stuff?
Yeah, I think the immediate questions are do businesses pass this cost increase onto the customer? The market is oversaturated, prices are low. This industry is not doing super well. I mean, if you're looking at the news, I haven't been covering this a ton recently, but if you look at the Free Press, you look at Cranes, you're seeing a lot of businesses getting sold, shops closing. It's not a good time. And so there's a concern, we already have low margins on our business. This is going to make things even harder, and what are customers going to do with the price increase? I don't know. Maybe it's okay because they've been paying so little, but I don't think that's really how it works.
Well, even if it might end up okay, nobody really wants to be the person out there to say, oh, let's pay more.
Yeah, exactly. So basically they're our industry is struggling, we don't want this. But from the state's perspective, it's the government needs more money. And, I think Whitmer has talked about weed is sort of exempt from the sin tax that tobacco pays. Maybe there's a perspective that it's just paying its share. So it really depends who you are, what you think of it.
What's the next step to look for in the story?
For me, what I'm thinking about, Detroit spent so long doing this recreational ordinance. If you followed the news, you've seen, Detroit got sued a couple of times. It took a really long time to come up with this ordinance to regulate legal weed. And now we have some Detroiter-owned shops in Detroit that have come up and running. What happens to them? The city spent a lot of time getting this together. And now is it just going to be that much harder for it to work as they intended it to?
Well, I'd love to hear what people think at dailydetroit@gmail.com or 313-789-3211. I'll be candid in that I know a lot of our audience are consumers of such things. So keep your eye on that for sure.
Jer, I heard that you stopped by a little tour today. What was that about?
I did take a little tour. Went to the office block of the Hudson's development.
Oh, yes.
So Bedrock has finally unveiled the common areas, shall we say, of the space that General Motors is going to be taking, I believe, 4 floors of. There is already the Hudson's event space, which I think we've both been to for various things. But this is that upper space, that atrium that includes that skylight. Many people have wondered, looking at the renderings, that kind of giant skylight portal at the top of everything. And it is wild. It goes from the 5th floor all the way to the top. And, we'll have some pictures up on dailydetroit.com and in the show notes for you to take a look at. But it was just kind of stunning to see such a big investment in office in this time where I feel like there are a lot of things that are uncertain. And I think they acknowledge some of those things. One of the things I thought was interesting talking to the people behind it was that until General Motors was really put together as a deal, they weren't really sure who was going to fill all the things. This was not a space built for General Motors. This was a space that General Motors is taking and then modifying to make their own. A lot of amenities too. One key thing they were saying is that there's this flight to quality that they say to Class A office space, where if people are going to come into work, you're constantly competing with top talent. You're competing with them working from home. And so you need to make it so the 3 days a week, 5 days a week, whatever the deal is for your employer, that it's worth it. So they've got a really luxe rec area that they're doing, like a swanky like lounge. There's even going to be like a bar in the like atrium itself.
Paid?
I don't know.
It can't be a free bar. That's crazy.
That would be insane. That would be some WeWork stuff.
Sure would.
They've got a virtual game room in this, a workout facility, and a not regulation, but pretty large pickleball court.
That is trendy. Well, I guess that's been trendy for like 5 years.
At what point does a trend become a thing? Like, is pickleball now just a thing that people do?
Just a thing, yeah. As soon as it was trendy, I was like, wow, I sound kind of old.
I run into that trap all the time as a geriatric millennial.
but I mean, that does make sense, and I've heard that as well. I mean, that's the idea for people who still are building office spaces. Like, we need to build a luxury office space. You know, people don't always want this renovated in the 80s and 1900s building that you can't have a pickleball court in, you know, like K-Mac or whatever. So maybe that will attract people. I don't know.
It's going to be interesting to see how it is. These amenities are shared with everybody who's a tenant in that building, which includes like Venlaw. The Gilbert Family Foundation will be based in there. Mm-hmm. They do not have occupancy like percentages. They didn't share those, but they did share that there's these tenants lining up. I mean, we all know that there's a good chunk of it already taken with these, you know, people, but we don't have exact numbers on that. So it'll be interesting to watch the tower stuff, you know, because there's two parts to this development. There's the block and then the tower. And, you know, off air, we were talking about this a little bit. You got to always remember which one's which and what their orientation is.
Yes, I struggle with which one is more north and which one is more south. But yes, the shorter building, the block that you're just talking about, is the north piece, and then the south is the giant tower.
Right, because Canada is south of us here.
It is technically, yes.
Which is a nice point of pride for Detroit, I think.
Yes.
But there is this Nick Gilbert Way, named after Dan Gilbert's son, that is between the two. It's not a road, it's more like a plaza. It'll be open to the public a lot of the time, but also used for events. In that will be a permanent food truck outpost of Cafe Souterre.
I think that sounds great. People love Cafe Souterre. I wonder if they'll have like DJs. Doesn't Cafe Souterre have a lot of DJs?
I gotta think there's going to be
music element.
What do they call it? Placemaking programming?
Yeah, placemaking. Got to make the place.
Got to make the place. The more details we're going to get on the tower in coming weeks and months, that's still at least 2027 for the bigger development with the hotel, the residential. Condos. And I'm interested about that because, you know, you've covered a ton of stuff with this. I'm interested to see how the market changes and evolves over the next, honestly, 2 years that we're talking about here. A lot can change. I mean, a lot's changed in the last 2 years.
Downtown Detroit has a lower number of residents than a lot of other downtowns, like in the Midwest, elsewhere. And so, like, are we going to see demand for these condos? I mean, I'm curious, like, what the pre-sales are like on those.
The prices are going to be up there.
Yeah, so we obviously want more residents downtown. We want more residents, you know, across Detroit. So it'd be interesting to see what those occupancy rates are going to be like.
Yeah, how many condos are we looking at?
97.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a lot. I mean, it's not hundreds, but it's still a lot. I'm going to be curious to see how the uptake is on these.
Indeed.
You have been following a story that I know a lot of people on our member-only Discord on Patreon are very interested in because there's like a lot of passion for this place, Sister Pie. So what do I need to know?
People who go to Sister Pie, or, you know, if you've gone to it before, you'll be interested to know, they semi-closed over the summer. They closed their daily retail operations. I think the owner, Lisa Ludwinski, likes to be, you know, clear about that because the business isn't closed. It's still a business. It exists. So anyway, they are having some financial difficulties and basically trying to reimagine the business to be successful, thriving long-term. They had closed for daily operations for a couple months, still doing classes, that sort of thing. And then just last week, they released this like 2030 vision, basically, for what they see the business in the future. And basically, I think what's noteworthy about this is that they say, you know, our bakery is the most important part of our business to customers in a way, but it is like the most unpredictable and not profitable part of their business. Like people aren't just buying 7 scones a day. You know what I mean? Although I wish I did.
That sounds delightful, actually.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Can I live on that timeline instead of this timeline?
Just move on over to Sconeville. So they're saying, we believe our most profitable area is going to be catering and events. So they're kind of in this testing phase of working on that. And then they're going to, kind of build it out going forward. And I think this business story is worth noting because there's this sort of overarching fear with retail, with, profit margins, with the cost of products, cost of ingredients, for certain retailers, tariffs. I mean, it's hard. Line items aren't matching up. Like, labor is getting more expensive. I'm not saying it's like harder for small businesses than it is for consumers to deal, with costs. Obviously, that's really hard, but local businesses are obviously really important.
They're very important. And we've had a lot of people be a little bit shaky lately as far as openings and closings and things like that. Sister Pie is what I would consider a premium product, right? Like that's just what it is. And I think that it is something of a sign that no matter, like even at a premium product price, if you can't make those numbers work, so many businesses that I see, and I'm interested to see where it goes. Like there's a lot of these food businesses that are doing packaged goods and they're doing like 50 different things. I'm over exaggerating, but they're doing a ton of things to stay in business. It's really fascinating to me because I know that there's like a lot of people who have that dream and that love. And for so many years, that corner of West Village being Sister Pie like it was a standard, if you will, right? And this is a business that's gotten so much good publicity because of the quality of their work.
Yeah, and I think that diversifying the income streams, I mean, she basically wrote in this 2030 vision, the idea is there's a bakery cafe with, different options. I mean, what do people want? Do they want lunch? Do they want grab and go? Like, what are they going to buy? And then also still with their classes, then wholesale, which, the kind of retail, and then the catering and events. So I think that's the idea is like, how do you get these different streams of income that add up?
Well, if you are a Sister Pie visitor or have thoughts, dailydetroit@gmail.com. Now, when we were getting ready for the show, Annalise, you reminded me of something that me and Norris were talking about that we missed.
Oh, yes. In terms of, we were just talking about the Hudson's site, and they've had a couple of retailers, including Tecovas.
Some PR person's probably going to send us an email at some point.
Probably, yes. And then we will get it right. But I heard that you were both struggling with the name, and I also am. But this Western wear store, it's like based in Austin, going to open in the Hudson site. You already discussed it, but it just reminded me of this handmade goods Western wear store on Verner. It's like between the Salvation Army and Nice Price on Verner, and they sell handmade like cowboy boots. They have cowboy hats. They have all this apparel that's kind of, I'm not saying all cowboy boots are the same. I'm not really familiar with the difference in cowboy boot styles, but there's cowboy boots that are very well made there. And it's called Rodriguez Vaquerita. Sorry for the pronunciation there, but it's a long time. I think like Fox 2 said they've been open like 40 years and they've been selling these things. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I always celebrate new stuff, but it's important to take a look at those businesses that have been around for a while. And Southwest Detroit, such a dynamic part of town, really deserves more shine.
Yeah, and especially, not just food businesses, but retail, apparel, all the things.
All right. Well, Halloween is upon us, and you sent a note to me about this movie, and I couldn't help but think about another movie along these same lines. People might know the movie Searching for Sugar Man. That was where a artist from Detroit made something that became a cult hit somewhere else. And this is another story a little bit like that, but in the horror genre. Oh, I want to know.
Yes, it is. Jer, I've got a question for you. Mm-hmm. How badly would you like to watch people get dissolved by stomach acid from an anthropomorphic bed?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Who wouldn't?
Like, even if it's not that scary, it sounds so absurd.
Yeah, so this is called Deathbed, the bed that eats, and it is an absurd 1970s, like, campy, kind of psychedelic horror movie that was shot in Detroit, Hamtramck, and Birmingham. And so basically what happened is this filmmaker, George Barry of Royal Oak, he shot this movie for like $10,000, not a lot of money, in the 1970s. And he tried to shop it around. He couldn't really land a deal. I don't really know why, but it's very out there. Obviously, like cult horror movies often are very out there. But he couldn't land a deal for this movie. He went on, lived his life, sold books, just lived his life. And then in the 2000s, he went on Google. This is per like Free Press Archives mostly that I'm getting this from. He went on Google. He found out that Deathbed, the Bed That Eats, had actually been pirated, and it became like a cult hit in the UK with this like cult underground following, and people became like obsessed with it.
That is amazing.
He had no idea. And from there, it got bigger. It got some, went into some theaters. I think it was shown locally and stuff. Like Metro Times has also reported about this, but it was just so fascinating that his own art, he didn't even know that people like loved it.
So you've watched this movie?
Yes.
Did you enjoy it?
That's such a complicated question. There's a classic scene in this movie that involves skeleton hands that I will not spoil for anyone, but I was like rolling on the ground laughing. It is a great scene, but it's just like, it's about like a demon that possessed this bed, like through his blood or his tears or something like that. And the bed starts to become sentient, sucks people in, and like basically like melts them down with its bed stomach acid. And it's very thoughtful. And this demon is like musing about his long lost love. It's very eerie. And I think what got me so interested in it is like, not only was it filmed locally, but part of it was filmed at the Garwood Mansion. Have you heard of this on Greyhaven Island?
Yes, I have heard of it.
Yeah, so it's like a 1920s mansion that, was built for inventor Garwood. You can look him up. It became this like rock and roll commune. It had some famous people play there. And, just this free love moment in time. Eventually, like a motorcycle club took up residence there. It got kind of destroyed. It was sort of in ruins, I think, when they filmed Deathbed there. And so it's kind of this very interesting site. And I was like kind of obsessed with it. And this crazy mansion is on Greyhaven Island, which still exists. Mansion does not exist. But this island is just fascinating. It's like a man-made island on the Detroit River. So it's kind of this like complicated
I visited like a friend's house. I guess there's like some condos or something and some developments over there. I've been on there, but I didn't really realize the whole connections. One thing, my family is connected a lot into boating. My step-grandfather actually invented the Crescent sailboat.
Oh, that is a fun lore fact about
and
your
there's
history.
Even more lore behind it. And then my grandmother was somebody who would take me over to a place called the Goat Yard.
What's the goat? Oh, I don't know the Goat Yard. I need to know about the Goat Yard.
The Goat Yard's a whole episode into itself.
Oh, geez.
To be very honest with you. But when I was a child, there was a goat there in the boat yard.
One goat.
Yes. A little bit ornery. Over by St. Jean. Anyway, Garfield Wood, first off, that name is amazing.
Yeah.
Such a better name than like, hello, I'm Garwood.
Oh, yeah, that's a man who needs to wear cowboy boots right there.
And probably smells like leather-bound books.
Exactly. Yeah. He probably has, some leather goods that he, that just emanates. Yeah.
So I know him through the motorboats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The motorboat racing. I know you did a lot of other stuff, but go look him up. But it's the motorboats that I remember, the big, long wooden boats, before the hydroplane races.
Yeah. So he got quite wealthy, and he had this like giant mansion built. Yeah. You can't go on the island, if you went, it's like gated, but it's a fascinating tale.
Are there any spots that you picked out while watching the movie, or things that you like recognize where you're like, since you said Hamtramck was like, oh yeah, this feels like it, or was it?
Not really. I mean, there's like some scenes where they're just like on a road. It's just really hard to tell, I mean, I think the Garwood Mansion was really the part where you're like, oh, I know that. But there wasn't a lot else that you could kind of tell where it was.
So is there any other cinema that I should know about in this genre from Detroit?
Yes, in fact, there is. Okay, so I haven't seen this movie yet. It's on my list, but people like to tell me about it all the time when I'm talking about Deathbed, the Bed That Eats. Because it's another.
You have to say it that way too.
Really
Deathbed, the Bed That Eats.
Yes, you really do.
It's almost like a jingle.
Yes. So Barbarian, I think a lot of listeners will probably have seen it. It's a pretty recent horror movie. Justin Long, Bill Skarsgård, but it's set in Detroit, like at an Airbnb in Brightmoor. And
we should ask the Prince of Brightmoor, Norris Howard, about
Indeed, yeah. And it's, from what I read, it was mostly filmed in Bulgaria. Only like a little bit was filmed in Detroit, which is pretty sad.
That is the Bulgaria to Brightmoor connection.
Right?
Seems so absurd. Like you couldn't even Mad Lib that.
I know. It's so, and I'm sure it's someone who's more of an expert on the film industry could talk a lot about that. But from what I understand, I mean, people will set stuff in Detroit, but people don't really film here as much because, we don't have the film incentives anymore.
Well, and I know something that a lot of listeners would really like to see back, to see a lot of that stuff. I mean, I remember Transformers at the Michigan Central.
Yeah.
That was wild. I lived
deal.
down the street when they shot that.
Wasn't Batman versus Superman? They also had some Detroit.
Something like that. Yeah, there's been a bunch of stuff. But of course, the movie that is the most connected with Detroit, but not shot in Detroit, and of course, way before this film incentive stuff, is RoboCop.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is kind of like sci-fi. Would you call it? It's scary in parts.
There's some action-y, violent moments, right? I don't know. But we can lump it in this sort of genre of non-real life genre movies, I guess.
I will say this. Probably whoever gets the first picture of the RoboCop, whenever that statue maybe appears in Eastern Market. Right?
Do they get a prize? The first photo?
I feel like we need to, maybe we need to award a prize. Some sort of paper plate award. Maybe a slice of like Detroit style pizza, a coney. It has to be an absurd prize. It can't be a real prize.
Just a slice of pizza on a piece of paper, or like a paper plate, I mean?
I guess maybe you should do like a whole small pizza.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, do a whole
for
small.
the cleanliness factor.
For the cleanliness factor, yeah. Or a coney of your choice, but that's even cheaper. Let's do the pizza. I feel like the coney's maybe cheaping out on the people too much.
Yeah, at least a small.
At least a small. Whatever toppings you want.
Yeah. I was just going to mention one other movie that's somewhat recent that I also haven't seen. I'm sorry. I'll see it soon, but it's called It Follows. I think it's a pretty popular horror movie. The director's from Clawson. It includes shots of the Packard plant. So I imagine that would be identifiable if you're watching it. I'm curious. But, some of these movies are sort of set in Detroit and kind of give these vibes of like, sort of like the ruin porn-esque vibe, but like aren't actually investing in the city. And, it would be great to get some more stuff that's like, horror can be about so many things. And, I want to see more like creativity of like, how do we tie into Detroit in a different way than like the built environment that might not, be as up to date as it once was.
I mean, you could do some serious horror. Like I think about those row houses or whatever over there on like 2nd Avenue in Midtown, a bunch of those stuff with the big arches, big porches. You could do all kinds of things. You could throw somebody off a balcony.
You could
murder someone on a couch in a beautiful parlor. Let's like up the game a little bit. I hear there's a ghost at the David Whitney.
Set a movie
the
there.
Restaurant.
Yeah. Set a movie there. Yeah.
You could do a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things you could do where Detroit isn't necessarily, it's part of the horror. Maybe there's a corner of it, but it's not all set in abandonment.
Exactly. Yeah. You could just have a monster. Just a monster comes out of the Detroit River and knocks down the Rensen. There you go. There's a movie.
Or somebody's running away from someone attacking them. They try to get away on the queue line, but the attacker is able to catch the queue line, pry open the door by walking.
That's quite realistic. That could definitely happen. Or maybe no, I shouldn't. Maybe a car is parked in front of the queue line, so it has to stop. No, I love the queue line. I'm sorry.
All do. We all do. Or maybe you could take the people mover and forget that it's a loop, and then the killer's still at the station. Like when you come back, it gets on the train.
I love the people mover because it's very like Groundhog Day. Like you just going around in a circle. I think it could be like a psychological horror element of like, haven't I been here before?
What's that movie? Memento.
Oh, yeah. Wait. Yeah. It's been a really long time since I've seen Memento, but he kind of forgets his life, right?
Right. And by the time you get back to the station, you've forgotten everything.
Yeah. Wow. There's a lot of options here.
Like a 15-minute mini horror. And every time you pass Grand Circus Station, like terrible clowns come out or something.
Gotta have the clowns.
Gotta have the bloody clowns.
Yeah.
Annalise Frank, you're amazing. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks. It was great to be here.
Where can people read more of your stuff and follow you?
Yeah, you can follow me on X, Annalise_Frank, or Axios.com/local/Detroit. Sign up for our newsletter. It's free. And it takes like 4 minutes to read. So it's a pretty good thing.
It is a pretty good thing. And of course, if you've got more horror stuff to add on or more Halloween stuff, dailydetroit@gmail.com. Maybe we need to make a little list of all these things.
Yeah, I would love if listeners would tell you more of their recommendations of horror related. I always want to hear about horror stuff. So any horror loving readers, like reach out to Daily Detroit. Do it.
All right. Well, with that, we are done for today. I hope we haven't scared you away from your podcast app. Thank you so much for listening. Also, thanks to our members on Patreon, patreon.com/Daily Detroit, because local media needs local support to survive. With that, I'm Jer Stays. Remember that you are somebody, and we will talk soon.